Got a lot more than juvenile trouble. Seems to me like you all were in such a hopped-up hurry to get out of the city that you turn your kids into exactly what you're trying to get away from.
So when I was doing research for the Deadgirl review that I recently did, I was watching the special features on the Blu-ray, and the writer of Deadgirl actually cited 2 different movies that inspired him. One of them was Over the Edge. It was also mentioned that this movie was Kurt Cobain's favorite film, which sold me even further, and I bought a DVD copy. I watched it the other night and I was pretty blown away that I had never seen or really heard of this movie before. And maybe that's a good thing, because this is the kind of movie that would have inspired me as a child to start an uprising during recess. It's a film from 1979 that is very subversive for its time, about a group of kids growing up in a town that is in the midst of suburban development. But we mainly focus on best friends Carl and Richie and their crew of friends that hang out at the rec center. The rec center in New Grenada being one of the only outlets for the kids, keeping them from their teenage degeneracy. Now, during the opening credits of this movie, I was a little bit concerned that I was going to be watching some sort of after-school special, warning you about the dangers of teenage vandals. Thank God it doesn't do that, and instead focuses on the kids feeling alienated. This is a subversive movie. It shows kids taking drugs, trying to hook up with girls, going to parties, drinking, a lot of things that kids really do growing up. Very similar in vein to Kids. In fact, I don't think Kids would exist without this movie laying groundwork for it. It also has a lot of Warriors vibes, and in fact, this movie was inspired by the Warriors. Even a little bit of Clockwork Orange vibes in there. It's told in a surprisingly real and honest way, especially for that time period, and only feels dated in a couple of moments. The heels of this story are the parents, the cops, and real estate businessmen. Without spoiling too much, the kids have enough, it all boils over, and something big happens towards the end, and the kids fight back. Like I mentioned a second ago, it's actually inspired by Warriors and Boulevard Nights, 2 films that were having actual incidents of gang violence during their screenings. This was supposed to be Orion's first film, but they pulled out, and this movie had a kind of troubled release history, had a hard time finding its audience. When they first cut a trailer for it, they cut it sort of as a horror movie, and they used gang violence as an excuse for it flopping. They pulled it because audiences were confused when they saw it. Then they tried to re-release it to art houses in 1981, and it did okay there, but it really found its home, found its audience in 1984 when the Movie Channel and HBO started to play it damn near every day. And that's how it really found its audience. Kurt Cobain wrote about it in his journal and claimed he saw it on its theater run, and he was definitely inspired by it heavily. Well, apparently he told the director of the Smells Like Teen Spirit music video to just do Over the Edge. But yeah, I think this movie is proto-Kids, it's proto-A24, even proto-Superbad. I mentioned Clockwork Orange earlier too. There's a scene later on in the movie where Carl gets jumped that definitely reminds me of Alex getting jumped by his former droogies, with even the music seeming to hint at that scene. The ending sequence at first I thought was a little bit over the top, without spoiling too much, but then I learned it actually is based on a true story. In 1974 in Foster City, over 150 cars were destroyed, cops were injured, and the kids cut the power to the town. So this is a legit based on a true story type thing. In a way, you could say they almost held back on some of the destruction in the end sequence. One of my favorite things I learned about this movie upon researching it is that they cast real kids. There's only about 6 actual actors in the movie. The rest of the kids are just kids that they found going to high schools. When they would go to these schools, the teachers would try to show them the theater kids, but the filmmakers would often go outside and find the kids outside smoking. The bad kids. Matt Dillon was one of those kids. This is his first role in a film, and actor Vincent Spano's first film as well. The kids even picked much of the music used in the soundtrack of the movie. It was shot in Colorado, and a lot of the cinematography focuses on the open landscape, really highlighting the themes of isolation, alienation, and the whole real estate development aspect. I think this film is a subversive masterpiece, definitely paved the way for films like Kids, Superbad, Dazed and Confused even. This is almost like if Dazed and Confused was shot in the time period where Dazed and Confused actually took place in. I would definitely encourage you to track down and check this movie out if any of this interests you. I watched it on DVD, but you can rent it on many streaming gimmicks for $3 to $4. I give it 5 out of 5 kitchen knives. Let me know in the comments what you think if you do check it out or you have seen it before. And let me know in the comments some other subversive films I should check out. Make sure you hit the like gimmick, the subscribe gimmick. Really screw up the algorithm. Whoop whoop and have a good night.
Uh-oh. What? That stuff I took. It was supposed to be speed, but I think it was acid. I'll flash it.